Remember that episode of the Pokemon anime where Ash catches a shiny Pokemon? Well, that is this episode. However, do you remember the episode of the Pokemon anime where Ash catches a shiny Pokemon and none of the people around him really give a toss that it was a shiny? That's also this episode. We begin today's episode with this direct quote from Misty after the gang spot a birdhouse up in a tree.
I bet that's where flying Pokemon go to roost.
Nah, mate, they can do that anywhere. They can even do it in the middle of battle. You know, as long as they know the move. We're then gifted to some wonderful Brock wisdom.
It may be too big for a small Pidgeotto or too small for a big Pidgey, but on the other hand, maybe the reverse could be true.
Wait, but wouldn't the reverse of that be that it's too small for a small Pidgeotto and too big for a big Pidgey? I'm not sure you're completely making sense here, Brock. In fact, you should probably just admit it. You haven't got a clue what you're on about, have you? Ah ha ha ha. Ha ha. Ah ha 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 ha. I see what you did there, Pokemon. Very good. According to Ash's Pokedex, Noctowl is a nocturnal Pokemon. You think? What gave it away? Oh look, a shiny Noctowl. Now in 2022, this really doesn't feel like a WTF moment. After all, everyone knows that Ash has a shiny Noctowl. But just take a moment to consider how all of us kids in the early 2000s felt watching this episode. Some of us had never seen a shiny Pokemon before, and some of us didn't even know that shiny Pokemon existed because we didn't use the internet as often as we do nowadays, so we'd just never heard of them, and this was the first time an actual shiny Pokemon had been shown in the anime. So at that time, we all lost our goddamn minds at this. Don't ask me how Harry Potter over here has managed to create a blanket that matches the exact position and direction of every detail of this tree's trunk to almost completely cloak it from this wild Noctowl, because I have absolutely no idea. Honestly, it's quite impressive. I mean, when I called this guy Harry Potter before, I was just referencing his cloak of invisibility, but now that we've seen the guy's face, I mean... The guy introduces himself as Dr. Wiseman. Yeah, you heard. Dr. Wiseman. Dr. Wiseman. I guarantee this guy was not born with that name. He's 100% changed it by deed poll, hasn't he? Now, one thing I've noticed during the short time we've been watching this episode is that every time a Noctowl turns its head, it makes this weird grinding sound. And now I'm no expert on owls, but did they do that? Because I feel like if they did, it'd be common knowledge, and it'd be the kind of thing where you're at the zoo and your mum would say to you,
"Oh, look over there at the owls. Oh, if you listen carefully, you can hear their necks grinding."
You know what I mean? If you ask me, the necks of the Noctowls in this forest don't sound healthy at all. This channel, on the other hand, is lovely and healthy thanks to wonderful people like our Ace Trainer Ultra XL members, who are Bro Metapod, Purple Dragonair, Andros LaFay, Sin City Yeti, Gear Overlord, TJ the Nerd, Ruby Sunset, Blue Thunder 2021, and JWatt8554. Thank you guys for all of your support on this channel. You guys mean the world to me. So it's pointed out that the shiny Noctowl is slightly smaller than the average Noctowl. Now I was going to say something about size variation being a thing in this episode before size variation in the games was an actual thing, but when I said shiny Noctowl, something else caught my attention. When do the sparkles happen? You know, the sparkles or the stars or the squares or whatever happens when you see a shiny Pokemon. When do they happen? Like, I get that if you own one, they probably happen when you send the Pokemon out of its Pokeball, but what about in the wild? In the games, the Pokemon sparkle when you discover them, but in the anime world, everything's already existing in the same space. So do the wild Pokemon just sparkle at random? Or if Ash and friends were to walk about 50 yards away from this Noctowl and then walk back, would it then sparkle again? Answers on a postcard. Ash lobs a Pokeball to try and catch the shiny Noctowl, who simply kicks the Pokeball away. Bringing up the age-old question, how the hell do Pokeballs work? Like I've said before, I was always under the impression that when a Pokeball touches part of a Pokemon's body, that triggers the catching process. But I guess Noctowl's foot isn't part of its body for some reason? Does this Noctowl have a prosthetic leg? And if so, does that count as its held item? Also, if you're watching this video and you're someone who has any form of prosthesis, just know this. You're awesome, you're a friggin' superhero, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Noctowl uses hypnosis on Ash and tricks him into thinking a nearby rock is Pikachu refusing to battle for him.
That's not
how that works, mate.
Seriously though, Ash should be asleep right now. Or, realistically, it should have missed him. Direct quote from Ash after falling over with the rock on top of him.
"Pikachu, you got heavy.
Now look, I know that he's not really underneath Pikachu, he's just underneath a rock that he thinks is Pikachu, but if he does think that this rock is Pikachu on top of him and that Pikachu has put on weight, you really could try and be more delicate with how you try and tell him, mate. At least try and be constructive with your criticism, lad. Ash Ketchum has no tact. Pass it on. Direct quote from Misty to Dr. Wiseman.
You were starting to tell us that you moved here to this cabin because you wanted to devote yourself full time to trying to catch that Noctowl?
Jesus, Pokemon, that might be the laziest exposition dump I've ever heard. Like, why not just have Misty recite the plot of the entire episode? Dr. Wiseman says he's only interested in catching the rarest, most unusual Pokemon. Well, how come you haven't caught any, mate? Like, you don't even own a single Pokemon, not even a common one. I think this guy's full of shit and he just sucks at catching Pokemon. So whenever someone asks him why he hasn't caught any, he's just like, oh, I only want the rarest and most unusual Pokemon. I didn't fail to catch that Caterpie, it just wasn't rare enough for me. Wiseman, we can see right through you, mate. Misty sends out Psyduck and pretends that it's a rare and unusual Pokemon. And she does it just to annoy Wiseman? So this guy's going through some existential shit where he can't even hear laughter without being reminded of the shiny Noctowl that he can't catch laughing at him, and your response is to dick with him? That's not very protagonisty. Dr. Wiseman says he's going to show the shiny Noctowl just how clever he can be. Alright, but why haven't you done that so far? He tells Ash a trainer with his limited knowledge is no match for him or Noctowl. And in response, Ash reminds Dr. Wiseman that he's had no luck catching Noctowl either. Wait a minute, Ash clapping back instead of doing the anime trope of falling to the ground with a bead of sweat coming from his head? Apparently, Ash Ketchum has grown a spine. Pass it on. So Brock reckons catching a Pokemon using a secret trap is a bad idea, and that even if Wiseman catches Noctowl in this way, the Pokemon will never respect him. I mean, you say that, but the anime has showed us very different. Like, we've literally seen rampaging Pokemon caught by a trainer and then immediately sent back out after being caught, ready to fight for its trainer and ready to obey its trainer. So why would this Noctowl be any different? Like, sure, there are exceptions, like Ash's Charizard, who decided to be a dick one day and stuck with it for the longest time, but for most Pokemon, they tend to be obedient from the off. I get the feeling Brock realized he hadn't said anything in a while, so just said this for the sake of it. Direct quote from Misty.
It's always best to be honest and fair with Pokemon, Ash.
Wait, why was that directed at Ash? It's not his trap. I'm pretty sure Ash was only asking to see Wiseman's trap, not borrow it. Misty, mate, use your noodle. Or at least your ears. Ash says he'll catch Noctowl fair and square or not at all, and Wiseman responds, very noble, but if you're smart, you'll see that kind of attitude won't help you capture this Pokemon. Is that so? Well then let me ask you, if you're so smart, why has it taken you this long to come to this conclusion? Mate, I don't know what this guy's doctorate is supposed to be in, but he can't be good at it, can he? Dr. Wiseman is a numpty. Pass it on. So Wiseman's secret trap is to reveal a mirror to Noctowl and have Noctowl cast hypnosis on itself. Now, not only does this disprove everything he was saying about this Noctowl being clever, because you're really telling me that this supposedly intelligent bird has never encountered its reflection before, but also, how does this particular mirror work? With most mirrors, anything being reflected is instantaneous, but with this one, it waits until Noctowl stops using hypnosis before then bouncing the attack back. Pokemon, far be it for me to tell you how to do your job, but you really have made a pig's ear of this episode, haven't you? After Noctowl falls from the tree, Dr. Wiseman runs over boasting about finally catching it, but doesn't actually throw a Pokeball, which means he didn't even try to catch it. Seriously though, I thought this guy was supposed to be smart. Then again, if he was smart, he'd know to use code ACE to save money on G Fuel. For those not in the know, G Fuel is an energy formula with barely any calories, zero sugar, and a whole heap of wonderful flavors like the fantastic Tiger's Blood that I'm drinking today. This is my favorite currently available flavor. It's got watermelon, it's got strawberry, it's got coconut. Oh, it's so friggin' good and gives me bags of energy, which I need at the moment because I'm very, very busy. Oh, that's so bloody good. Go and get yourself some Tiger's Blood G Fuel or any of the wonderful flavors. Just make sure you use code ACE when you do to save 10% whilst also supporting this channel. And remember, G Fuel is for over 18s only because it contains caffeine and children don't need to be anywhere near caffeine. They're annoying enough as it is, and because it contains caffeine, drink it responsibly. Don't be a dickhead. So as it turns out, Wiseman hasn't actually picked up Noctowl. He's picked up a rock. He simply thinks he's picked up Noctowl. And Brock figures out that Noctowl must have hypnotized Wiseman just just before it fell from the tree. But just like most of this episode, that doesn't make sense either. Like, you're telling me that after this Noctowl was hypnotized by its own hypnosis and lost control of basically all motor function, it somehow had the wherewithal to figure out that this was a direct result of Wiseman's actions and then quickly hypnotize Wiseman in return? Bollocks! Pull the other one, lads. Here's a direct quote from Ash after seeing a giant mechanical Noctowl coming from the sky with giant balloons to help it fly.
That's not a real Noctowl!
Nothing gets past you, does it, mate? And here's a direct quote from Meow.
And we're gonna catch that colorful Noctowl right after we get back from the next commercial.
I mean, great fourth wall break and everything, mate, but at least yell spoiler alert before you give the story away. Now I'm not going to be surprised when you catch it. Oh god, Entei. That reminds me, we've got the third movie coming up soon. Although, on the plus side, people will finally stop asking me if I'm going to do the third movie. Mate, I love this interaction between Wiseman and Team Rocket. Basically, Wiseman scolds Team Rocket for not having enough faith in their own Pokemon catching ability and having to resort to contraptions to do it, and that they should be ashamed of themselves. Careful where you're swinging that irony, Pokemon. You almost didn't hit us over the head with that one. But then James points out they didn't build this contraption, they bought it, although some assembly was required, and Jessie says that it didn't include instructions on how to be ashamed of anything. And that, my friends, is top banter. Bravo to Team Rocket. Direct quote from Brock.
What about rules? Decent, honorable trainers only use their own Pokemon to catch new ones.
Now, Team Rocket quite rightly call him out for this, because seriously, Brock, mate, did you forget who you were talking to? This is Team Rocket. When have you ever seen them be decent or honorable? Screw your head on, lad. Also, did Brock just low-key say that Dr. Wiseman wasn't decent or honorable because he was using a trap to catch Noctowl? The shade, Brock, the shade. Team Rocket's giant Noctowl mech is insulated against electricity and against water and against fire, which begs the question, why don't they use this kind of tech all the time? As Ash throws Cyndaquil's Pokeball, he yells
Totodile!
and as he throws Totodile's Lure Ball, he yells
Cyndaquil!
Ash, mate, how do you not know which Pokemon's in which ball? Like, if it were two Pokeballs, I'd understand. But one of them's a water type in a Lure Ball, the ball that's better for water types. After Team Rocket snatched Noctowl from Wiseman, who tried to run off with it, the prick, Noctowl starts turning its head and making that weird grinding noise. And honestly, for a split second, I thought they'd snapped its bloody neck. Ash Ketchum somehow manages to climb a tree in seconds and jump from the top of that tree onto Team Rocket's claw. And I mean, look, just look how far away that is. Even Michael Jordan at the end of Space Jam couldn't reach that. Ash Ketchum is apparently a ninja. Pass it on. Misty Psyduck lets itself out of its Pokeball and tries to use Confusion. And Misty humors it, thinking it might actually work. And the longer it tried to use the move, the more I realized. This entire bit was just to pad out the episode runtime, wasn't it? I'm just saying, when Ash is trying to pull the right claw up, his left leg is pushing the left claw down some more. And since the claws are gripping Noctowl, he's just made the left claw's grip tighter on Noctowl's lower half. Ash, mate, you're not really helping if you're just gonna snap its spine, are you? After Noctowl escapes, Ash is thrown from the claw and all the way from the top of the trees down to the ground and survives. Stupid bloody plot armor. Direct quote from Meowth.
Hey, that noise is way too loud to be crackers.
Careful there, Team Rocket. You guys have said cracker an awful lot during this scene. At the rate you're going, you're gonna get banned on Twitch. Ash gets Pikachu to fire its Thunderbolt right into the... well, I mean, what do you call that? Like, there's only one word for it. The Robussy.
The Robussy.
After Team Rocket are dealt with, Noctowl challenges Ash to a battle and immediately uses Hypnosis on Pikachu, which leaves Pikachu looking like he's tripping his balls off on acid. And yes, that is a reference to a 10-year-old YouTube video. And yes, I will be linking it in the description. Pikachu begins firing off his Thunderbolt in random directions. And according to Brock, it's because Noctowl has him hypnotized. Now, I hate to sound like a broken record, but that's not how Hypnosis works. It's supposed to put the opponent to sleep. In fact, that's not even how Hypnosis in the real world works. That's supposed to give you control of the person, not the person suddenly become uncontrollable. Oh, seriously, Pokemon, I don't know how you've managed this. You've made the first episode of the anime about a shiny Pokemon, and you've somehow managed to make hypnosis the main focus? What are you doing? You could have used this opportunity to teach all of us kids watching about this wondrous new phenomenon of alternate colored Pokemon, and instead you gave us this? Sort yourselves out. And Pikachu beats Noctowl with a Thunderbolt, and the battle is over. What, were you expecting something more? Yeah, me too. Ash celebrates catching a Noctowl and seems to completely ignore the fact that his new Noctowl is a completely different color to the color that Noctowl are supposed to be. Like seriously, nobody seems to give a toss that it's a shiny. Have they all forgotten, and do they just think this is what all Noctowl look like? Wait, so explain to me why Dr. Wiseman's staying in the forest? Dude moved his entire life to a house out here in the forest to dedicate himself to catching Noctowl, and at his first opportunity to actually catch it, he just let Ash catch it. Now he's just going to be a bloke living in a forest in the middle of nowhere with nothing to do. I guess you could say Dr. Wiseman wasn't a very wise man after all. So those are my WTF moments of Pokemon Season 3, Episode 38, Foul Play. Let me know your favorites and any that I missed down in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Become a member if you're an awesome person. And of course, head to this very channel for my live streams and use code ACE to save money on G Fuel. But until next time, I'm Ace Trainer Liam. Keep on training.